So hi, on the Guys Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Viggy from DROUGHT.
and we're some questions today about the upcoming album Souvenir. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response, the announcement so far?
Oh, it's been incredible. Great to have a couple of songs out, and it seems like it's connecting with people. So, looking forward to having it out.
Hell yeah, the
Hell yeah.
album is incredible. I really dig
Oh, yeah.
this.
Damn straight.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Of course. And so, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Good question. When we were trying to figure out what the concept for the record was going to be, we were sifting through the lyrics, and our guitarist does all of our design work. He was mentioning there's a lot of lyrics that reference sort of walls and ideas of home and boundaries and freedom. And at one point he said, what if for the artwork we thought about doing like a diorama? And we started to kind of explore that idea. And our friend Trina built a model based on some of the pieces we told her, and it includes some Easter eggs in terms of our sort of histories, things that each of us kind of grew up with, and sort of conceptually, one of the themes that is there throughout the record is that we often tend to look elsewhere for what home is, but ultimately home is something you carry with you. It's something that you build as you move through life, and souvenir kind of stuck out as a word that represents something that you carry with you, and includes sort of elements of your past, but the meaning can change as you grow. So that kind of brought some of these concepts together. So in the artwork, having this diorama that's been sort of built out, these miniatures, and then actually our guitarist RJ's hands are actually placing some of the items in there, in the liner notes. So yeah.
That's dope
Hell
as
yeah,
hell.
that's
Love
dope.
it. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for the album?
Yeah, usually there's sort of two different paths that songwriting will take for us.
Mhm.
Some of the time, our guitarist will come in with a riff, we'll jam on it in the space and try and figure out the song structure from there. That's how the writing for our EP came together. And then on this record, Wayfinding and Abattoir and Old Seed, New Grain all kind of have had that process when we were writing them. But some of the other songs, we started writing the record last August, and we were hoping to get it done at the beginning of this year because we really wanted to put something out this year. So we had to be a little bit more diligent. So some of us we would exchange notes on GarageBand, or send emails and voice notes to each other, and it was a pretty easy way to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Right.
Mhm.
So it really depends on the song. But there were a couple of different techniques that we used to get it together.
Gotcha. Did you guys struggle at all with like the timeline you guys put on yourself of kind of like you mentioned you started working on the record in August, you wanted it done by the top of this year. Did you guys struggle at all with only having a few months to kind of conceptualize the whole thing?
Yeah, we had 3 songs in August, and
Damn.
we wrote the entire rest of the record from then through February.
Mhm.
And it was super aggressive, right? Like, you'd have, I don't want to say you had homework, but sometimes I would write lyrics while I was walking my dogs. um, but like it would be the end of the day. I'd be kind of thinking, I might be thinking about something, a conversation I had, or a movie I saw, or went to the museum and there was this beautiful exhibit. And it would inspire these passages, and then the more I would think about it, it would sort of like come together. Sometimes you don't get that same sort of experience when you're all in the same space, because when it's only when you kind of reflect on what you're doing that you get the opportunity to think, how can I make it a little better? How can I talk about something that's really pressing on my mind? So there was a little bit of pressure, but I do think we love songwriting. So if you leave us to our own devices, we'll start writing on our own.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like pulling teeth.
That's
That's
good.
good.
That's good.
Okay, good. And so, what song off the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Which song took the longest to write? I want to say Wayfinding, because I think our guitarist came to us with that riff, with the chorus riff. Um, probably at the same time that our EP came out. So this would have been in 2023.
Mhm.
And I don't think any of us understood what he was going for. We had trouble being able to count, being able to tell what the rhythm was going to be. Um, and so we would shelve it. We would work on something else. And then eventually we came back to it. And then we had a little bit of like an aha moment. Um, but even then there were, we needed to go back to the drawing board several times, rethink entire passages. So I think that one, not I think, I know that one easily took the longest to write. There were other ones that kind of came together pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Um, my personal favorite, um, I think either Two of Me or Saint would be my personal favorites.
Mhm.
I just think they show like a side of the band that we don't explore that often. And hopefully the folks who listen to it find that interesting too.
Mhm.
That's dope. Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
So how did the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Sometimes you'll write a song and you're like, oh, I know that this is going to be the opener.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
an invitation was kind of like that. Like we knew out the gate. There was it starts out, it's urgent. Even lyrically, I started writing after we'd finished some of the artwork ideas. And it just felt like an opener. I think like we all had a sense that that's what it was going to be like. We weren't sure what the closer was going to be. We're like a pretty democratic band, so everyone had their sort of track listing preference list, and then we would experiment with it. We would like listen to the songs in that order and see if it worked the way that we thought it would.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we weren't too prescriptive. I think some of it was just sort of feeling it out, getting a sense of what two songs sound good back to back. And you don't really know that until you hear it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the opener was a given, and then the rest was based on vibes and making sure that everyone, the democratic decision, everyone was happy.
Yeah, we're a vibes band.
Hell
Damn
yeah.
straight. Hell yeah. And would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating the record?
It can be a little bit all over the place. Like being in a band is a very intimate thing. You end up, sharing your creative struggles and weaknesses. Um, Sometimes um, you learn a lot about what's easy for people to do and what's hard. Sometimes, like some of us will feel stronger about the parts we've written. Other people might be like, you know, Viggy, what are you doing on this part? And actually, in Where the Flora, I think the first time that the band heard the la da 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 parts, I think there was like a sense of like, are you sure? We're a hardcore band. This is like, and I was like, this is the way I hear it. I don't
Yeah.
know, but can you just trust me? There's like a little
Yeah.
bit of like, just trust me. Um, so that's like I think when it comes to like the methodology, but then when it comes to the substance, like for me, writing the lyrics, I knew there were certain things I've always wanted to talk about or sing about or yell about or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And some of the songs, go to some, I think, pretty dark or difficult places. Proof of Life is about a really dark time in my life where, you know, I tried to take my own life at the end of 2019,
Mhm.
and it's almost like a very sort of like literal song. And even now, like performing it or listening to it, sometimes it's like it's hard for me. Um, but then there'll be like another song like Saint, that's a lot more tongue in cheek. That one came together because I had this idea for a melody and I thought it sounded like very stereotypically emo.
Mhm.
And the song ended up being a little bit of a play on that, there are a lot of emo songs that are about car crashes. It's like the oldest trope in the book, right?
Yeah.
And the song is about this idea that like at least to me, if people might take different things from it, but there's this sort of obsession about like what you leave behind or what your legacy is or how you're going to be remembered. Especially now, there's like AI nonsense and nothing seems to disappear from the internet. And I think I was thinking about how, one of the most special things is not needing to be remembered, not needing to have some crazy legacy. Like it is what it is. So like the idea was like, you go through this, here's a song about a car crash, but kind of just bury me and forget about me, and it was especially funny because Eric from Mom Jeans did a guest spot on that song, and he always has kind of like a cheeky attitude in his music, and it really felt like the perfect fit. So like that one, I think in terms of a headspace, it's a little sillier. Um, so I think I liked the practice of going to different places on different songs, and I think part of it is just that my favorite bands are always ones that can reflect every mood. I don't want to listen to a band that's just going to be angry all the time because I'm not angry all the time. I don't want to listen to a band that's like just sad all the time because I'm not sad all the time. And I'm not happy all the time, right? Like that's the human experience, and I wanted to be able to capture all these different sort of feelings, everything from like self-reflection or sadness or like exhaustion even, that could kind of hopefully for folks who listen to it, like, oh yeah, I felt that thing too.
Yeah, and by covering the gambit versus like lasering in on one emotion, it allows the listener it kind of be a soundtrack to their life in a way versus maybe a blip in the radar of like what they're feeling in that moment versus what a human feels like in their day to day, the variety of emotions.
Totally.
Yeah. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do in the car with friends and dark headphones on? Is a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I mean, y'all have heard it. It's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's a party album,
Nah,
but
I'd say no.
but I think I definitely think headphones on, if you're on a long drive, I think it's kind of music that's about self-exploration and reflection, to varying degrees. So, I would definitely suggest that. We're releasing it on vinyl. So if you're someone who likes to, put on a record and hang out at home and just sort of think, this is music for that.
Hell yeah.
Damn straight. And this one should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
I'd say reflective,
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
and passionate.
Ooh.
Those are great. Hell yeah. And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
That one, I don't think so. I think I want folks to feel what they feel. It's really easy for me, like having like written lyrics or the band having written the music to have like a certain idea about what the song is or what it means. And I don't know, like it might mean something to me and it might mean something completely different to a listener. If they're interested in knowing what it means to me, like cool. But I don't want to get too wedded to that idea. I think there isn't really a right way or a wrong way to think about these songs. Like ultimately, even though something might have been my personal experience, um, I hope there's something universal about it that like, if someone else is coming to it, doesn't matter how young you are or how old you are, or whether you're American or, live in Europe or, Asia, um, whether you're rich or poor or whatever, like I want folks to kind of have a sense of like, okay, like, yeah, I felt that thing before. And oftentimes in punk rock, sometimes it gets distilled to like various sort of like the simpler sort of like, concepts, but like, finding ways to take that and like let's delve a little deeper in terms of how to be a better person or how to things that we all sort of struggle with internally, and hopefully are able to find communities that can help us work our way out of that. So I guess that might be one thing that I hope people do sort of feel. It's like, oh, I guess I'm a little less alone.
Yeah, I love that.
Solid. And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Yeah, I mean, I think one. Um, our bassist and us, we parted ways after the recording of the album. And I think some of that was, it was difficult. I think we wanted some different things, but he was such an integral part of the process, um, and sometimes like being in a band, especially one that has like a timeline on what you're doing or whatnot, can be like a little bit of a tinderbox. It's like you're in close quarters with a lot of people that everyone's really passionate about what they're doing and cares about making good music. So sometimes like that can be difficult. At the same time, like these guys are like some of my best friends. We share a lot. And one of the beautiful things about the process is even when things would be difficult, um, even when we felt like we were like talking past each other, like you give it a day and you'd reach out and be like, hey, I want to make sure we're good. Like, I think we both care about doing this well. We both care about each other.
Hmm.
So let's take a second and let's think about that before we then go on to like continuing to like write and talk about the music. So yeah, it got difficult many times. But I think we all do a good job of taking care of each other. When we released our EP, our one of our guitarists had cancer, and he had just finished going through chemotherapy. Um, and that was difficult. That was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so sometimes I think, like, yeah, stuff is going to be hard, but it's not always the hardest thing you're going to do.
Hmm.
And and as long as we're able to care for each other a little bit, you can really get through it.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
And for this last question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
The band would say payday,
Okay.
because they love payday bars. I am a fan of Pringles
Hmm.
and cup of noodles and stuff
Hmm.
that's really salty and bad for you.
Hell yeah, those are great
Solid
picks.
classics.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Hmm.
Yeah, if we're going to be playing a ton of shows this year, we're going to be in we're going to be in Toronto for New Friends Fest. So folks in Toronto, please come out. And then we're doing our record release back in the Bay Area on August 9th with Cold God, New Moon, and Fawning, who are all great shoegaze bands. And then we're planning to tour down to Fest in Gainesville, Florida. It'll be our first time making it to the Southeast, and would love to see folks come out. It's going to be a blast, make us feel welcome, and hopefully we can connect with some of y'all.
Hell
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been Viggy from Drought, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.